Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of Master in Programming. I just found out that I passed my full engineering degree. And as you know, I wasn't the best student ever, but I did end up getting my marks and it passed. I did well. I'm happy with my marks. And I didn't go through the ceremony yet, but I did get my marks saying that I actually did complete my degree. So in this video, I thought I'll explain exactly what I actually did learn in software engineering over the 5 years. I'll show you the subjects, I'll show you my marks, and I'll also walk through which subjects were important and which ones I kind of ignored, and which ones were completely hard and I wish I just did better in them. So this is a very detailed episode where I'll go on each subject and reflect on it. I'm pretty sure it will be super helpful for anyone who wants to do software engineering, whether in Australia or outside, and I'm pretty sure you will really benefit from it. So stick to the end and make sure you leave a comment explaining your own experience so far, or if you graduated and also want to share your experience. Let's get started. Welcome back, guys. So as you can see here, I'm actually viewing my results on my university website. And the first thing that you can see is that yes, I wasn't lying. I did officially pass my Bachelor of Engineering Honours Diploma in Professional Engineering Practice. And just a little bit breakdown of what that is. So basically, I'm doing the normal Bachelor of Engineering with honors, and I also am doing a Professional Engineering Practice Diploma. And what that is it's actually a whole year separated over 2 periods. Each period is 6 months each, where you get practical experience at any company that you manage to get a job in. So you're the one who goes out and looks for a company to work in, like an internship basically. And each internship is 6 months. You get two of them, so overall a year, and it can be paid, it can be unpaid. It's honestly however you find it. Uni doesn't really interfere with that at all. It just reviews your work and basically just makes sure that you are actually working somewhere and not just ditching. And with the honors, you can, if you get a distinction, so if you get above 75, it will be a first class honors. But if you get credit, it will be a second class honors. And currently I am on a second class honors. Honestly, I didn't even know I'm doing honors until last year. Anyways, the reason my degree was 5 years is actually because I'm doing that diploma. So if I wasn't doing it, it would just be a 4 year degree. And some people do that and they just go 4 years and then they look for work. But honestly, that 1 year of practical experience, I think to me, is equivalent to the entire degree. And I don't think I would have ever been able to find a job after graduating if I didn't have that technical experience. And in fact, I have actually been working since like second year. So since my first internship, since the first 6 months, I've been working since then in different kinds of companies throughout the whole time. Anyways, let's move forward. You can see that it says passed. And what I'll do is, because right now from the top it's showing you the last subjects that I did, so the one that I did in the last semester, what I'll do is I'll go from the very beginning just so that we can go over the subject that I did in my first year, and then we're going to keep moving forward. So I did 2 semesters each year, and each semester had 4 subjects. So for example, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These were the subjects that I did in my first year. So from database fundamentals all the way to the bottom, those were my first year. In the first semester, I did engineering communication, programming fundamentals, foundation mathematics, and BRM, or business requirements modeling. So I'll just go quickly over each one and I'll break it down and explain how good or bad each one is. So basically, in the first year overall, you're basically being introduced to engineering as a whole. None of these subjects were actually specific to software engineering except for programming fundamentals. In fact, I know that other engineering faculties now are actually putting programming fundamentals as well for everyone. But for me, everything else was basically standard across any kind of engineering throughout the whole year. For engineering communication, and this is actually a subject that a lot of people usually just take as a joke, because it does feel like a joke compared to the other subjects. You're just learning how to communicate as an engineer, how to reply to emails, how to write reports, and how to honestly just be a professional. And even though it sounds like a joke, I would actually say that this subject, engineering communication, is probably one of my favorites, if not one of the most ones that really impacted me throughout my degree and also through work. So it sounds simple, and it is much more simple. The thing is, most people tend to not focus on it, hence why I just got a pass. But actually, that subject, it allowed me to travel with uni to another country, Cambodia, where we did so many other projects. And honestly, it was just because of that subject that I managed to get every other job, because of the information that I learned from that job allowed me to really be a professional, allowed me to present myself properly, write my resume properly, communicate and write reports properly. And for me, at least, that was something that I was definitely missing out a lot. I'll move to programming fundamentals real quickly. And the reason I just want to mention it is because I was actually a little bit disappointed with that subject. Um, Basically, that subject was you would have labs, or like you'd have your tutorials each Friday or whatever day you were going. And all you needed to do is just go there and copy paste exactly what the handbook said. You didn't, like, we used it for Java, so that was the first ever programming language that I knew. I never did anything related to programming before that. And this subject, honestly, like, helped me 0%. I didn't even learn anything from it. I was just copying and pasting the whole time. And the teachers were happy with it. The tutors were happy with it. Um, and honestly, it seems like they didn't even really care. Like, they were just selecting random people who got a high mark to do it. And by the way, I got 50 here because I didn't even go to the final exam. So the final exam was 50, worth 50, and the labs were worth 50. So you can see that I got 100% in the labs, and that's because they were just copy and paste. If there were anything more than that, I probably would have not even passed. But again, it just wasn't really good. Now comes the big subject, which is foundation mathematics. And I want to actually explain what I did here because it was different than the handbook or what everyone else is meant to do. So usually you're meant to do MM1 or Math Mod 1, where you go through calculus and basically like much harder math than what I was able to do. And so what I did, or what the uni suggested for me to do, is to actually start with foundation mathematics, just to get my foundation of math on up to the standards of uni, because I was actually really bad at math, much worse than now. And so if I hadn't actually done this, it would have been horrible and I would have failed straight away. I would have not been able to do anything. But because of this, I actually learned so many of the basics, and it counted as one of my electives anyway. So it's not like I was just doing an extra subject that didn't count. It did count. It counted towards my credit points. So I wasn't wasting any time. I just took one of my electives from third year and instead did it in first year. So if you're someone who's doing math at school right now and you're a little bit worried because you're not too good at math, don't stress too much. There's always going to be something related to math that can help you, whether it's a full subject or just a course on the side. Following that, business requirements modeling, or BRM. And in BRM, I actually really liked this subject. You can see that I got a distinction in it. And that was my first distinction. And the reason I really liked it is because it taught you everything about business, which compared to every other subject at that time, it seemed like it's actually the most important one. And you learn about business processes, how to speak to clients, what an ERD is, how to draw diagrams, and how to basically do business and administration stuff, which was very important. I really, really did like it. Following with that is application programming, and now we're starting in our second semester. And in application programming, you can see that I got 55, and honestly, this was the first time I get a really hard subject like that. And yes, I attempted everything, including the final exam. It was just very hard, and it was to create an application program, or like an app, but on a desktop application, and it was using Java, and it was very difficult. It actually, like if you look at my videos now, I explain code and I explain programs and I do apps and websites and stuff, and you might think that I was always good at code, but honestly, I wasn't. Up until like second year or third year, programming was such a difficult thing for me to do. I didn't understand it at all, and it doesn't matter how easy the subject was, I just couldn't do it. Anyways, I ended up passing it with just 5 marks. I would say this is very important for anyone learning to code. It was a very important subject for me. But if you don't do too good, don't stress. It doesn't mean that you're a bad programmer. Maybe you just haven't figured out how you learn programming. I'll just skip forward to MM1 because that is actually the first subject that I did fail. And it did make me really upset. I thought I'll never be able to come back from it. And I thought I'll do really bad. But guess what? Next semester, I ended up doing it again. And I got 68 in it. So I credit, which is much better than I would have ever expected. So again, don't worry if you fail something at uni. This is actually the first and last thing that I ever failed. Everything else was a pass, distinction, or credit, whatever. So yeah, don't stress too much. I'll just keep moving forward to one of the most important subjects that I definitely benefited from during uni, and that is Software Engineering Studio 1. And regardless of what uni you go to, you'll definitely have one of these around. And they're very important because they basically as if you're at a job. They're designed so that you sit in a collaborative classroom. You're sitting in a table next to everyone as if you're sitting in an office basically, and you get presented with an idea or a problem that you need to fix. And it's entirely up to you how you want to fix the idea. It could be by creating an app or a web app or a website or anything like that. And it's fun, it's real, like it's honestly one of those subjects that you benefit from. And I'll be honest, I probably learned how to code much, much more in the subject than any of the other programming subjects that were specified for programming teaching, like this one. And the reason for that is because when you're working in a group of like 5 or 6, and you're both trying to actually come with a solution that you really want to create, you can learn anything. Like over here, I knew the why. I knew exactly why I needed to learn programming, and so I did. But in applications programming, I wasn't interested in the project. I didn't really know why I was doing it, and so I failed horribly. And you can see that I got a really good mark here, which is a high distinction. A, because it was in a group and I really loved working with my group, and B, it was also because I was very interested in it. Next comes engineering practice preparation, and this is one of those like paperwork subjects. I hated that subject so much. It was actually very important, but I did hate it. In that subject, you were meant to basically be prepared. Uni was meant to prepare you because next semester you will be doing your first internship, which is where my life changed. But in that specific semester in 2019, they were teaching you how to report to your manager, how to write reflections, and I just hated writing reflections. I really didn't like it at all, and so I did really bad. It was very important though. After that, I keep moving forward, and information system development methodology was very important to teach you how to actually come up with a solution. I really liked it too, and it also taught you a lot about IT stuff as well. Finally, and I'll just move to data structures and algorithms, because again, regardless of whether you're doing computer science or software engineering, you will definitely do data structures and algorithms. And oh my god, data structures and algorithms was it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, not even just a subject. It was very complicated. It had a lot of math in it. It had a lot of algorithms in it, which you find that about when you're doing the subject, and it's incredible. Like, it was very interesting. It was probably actually one of the most interesting subjects that I did. I was definitely curious in it, but once you start moving away from the theory and you start getting into the practical things of it, it just blows your mind. It's really hard to actually create an algorithm. And to be honest, I didn't really understand what an algorithm is at that point. Like, you were creating something. Like, for my last assignment, I actually got a really good mark. I think I got like 70 something, but I didn't know what I created. I just created it. And you would make it go through a test and it would tell you if your code is correct or not. It was correct. I had no idea what it was. Now, after I learned about it outside of uni, it's definitely one of the most important things you need to learn. You will actually not need this as a junior engineer, or probably in the first 10 years, or probably in the first 7 years of your career. You're probably not going to ever create an algorithm or a structure, but once you become more specialized and become an expert, you will definitely create it at some point. So this is over here, work integrated learning. This is the internship, and that went for 6 months. And over here, I ended up doing reflections again after the subject. You end up reflecting. Oh, sorry, as you're doing your work experience, you end up reflecting, and these were two subjects the same. Global Mobility A is when I actually got to go to Cambodia, part of the project, and it did count like a subject. I think it was only 2 credit points. Yes, it was only 2 credit points, but it still counts like a whole subject. And I passed it. Obviously, they don't give grades for that, but it was really nice. Engineering, economics, and finance is one of those subjects that I really, really, really did enjoy. You can see I got a credit in it, which compared to other subjects at that time, it wasn't too good. But engineering and economics and finance, you really learn about economy, you learn about money, and which turns out to actually be a huge part of any project management. Like, you think, oh, I'm just gonna grow up, I'm gonna work in a company where I create apps and websites and all these sorts of things, and then reality is no, you probably won't. You need to analyze how much money your team has. You need to analyze how much budget your team has, and what suitable solution actually will work. Because even if a solution is so good, if it doesn't suit the economy of your company or yourself, then it's not a good solution. So I loved it. Design and innovation is probably one of my favorite subjects as well. It was very boring towards the end, and the assignments were boring, but the content itself was really nice. Like, I really did learn a lot actually, and how to create design like an innovative solution. Software engineering study B. So just a heads up, with the studios, you can see that I did one in each semester. So we did Studio 1A, Studio 1B, Studio 2A, Studio 2B, Studio 3A, and Studio 3B. Actually, I think it was changed from Studio 3A to Software Development Studio. But basically, Engineering Studio 1B, I got 84 as well, so I got a distinction. 1 mark away from a high distinction, a bit annoying. But anyways, again, now the structure changes. You're not just being presented with a problem. Now you're actually being presented with a problem that the tutors don't know the answers for. It's a small problem, but you get to actually work on it and sort of develop it and find out if it solves the problem or not. But again, you know what the problem is. Network fundamentals, I did learn about how the internet works basically, and honestly, I would say this was maybe in my top 3 favorite subjects. Network fundamentals and Internet of Things, which by the way, Internet of Things ended up being my first high distinction ever. It was amazing. In the Internet of Things, you really learn so much about how the internet works, and once you learn how the internet works, it really surprises you. Like so many things you thought were in the cloud, and then you find out that, oh my gosh, they're actually not. So if you have an option, and I think Internet of Things was an elective, I can't remember, but if you have a chance to study the internet and the Internet of Things specifically, definitely go for it. You will love it. You will learn so much. Software architecture was also a really nice subject, and you can tell here that from like third year, my marks started to change a little bit, which I'm grateful for. But network fundamentals is amazing. Software architecture, it's really good. And I actually made fun of it at the beginning. I was like, no one's ever going to have to follow an architecture when you're developing software. And once I actually started working at a company, I was like, oh my God, this is like very important to learn. So I would definitely focus on software architecture. I'll move forward, and engineering practice reflection. This is when I just kept writing my reflections again, just to see, just to fill in what I'm doing in my internship. Again, very easy subject. You just reflect. And finally, and actually, I want to compare something. In engineering practice reflection 1, I got 85. Well, in the first time I had to write reflections, I actually got 66. So there was a huge improvement there. MM2, again, I got a mark that I didn't think I was going to get. And this was even much harder mathematics. So it's like the completion of MM1. And I got a distinction in it. But you can see the improvement there. I really did improve from MM1 to MM2. Also, uni at that time was online, so that helped me a little bit. Physical modeling, you just learn physics. It was very interesting. Some of the questions were really hard, but it's really important to learn as well. I would say actually that physical modeling, and actually I'll take a chance to just say this on math and physical modeling and any other subject that you might be doing at that time, and you might be saying, well, as a software engineer, why do I need it? You might not need this specific content that you're learning about in physical modeling or math, but just the ability to like problem solve and come up with a solution based on a problem that you think is impossible to do is definitely something that you need. And it's definitely something that you evolve over time, but just feeling or knowing that you solved a problem will help you solve other problems. So even though these were not as important when it comes to my everyday today programming, it definitely came very important to my everyday today problem solving, not just in engineering, but in my daily life in general. Engineering project management, an excellent subject that I'd recommend anyone to do, again, because managing projects actually ends up being like 80% of the work you do. Like in my work now, I've been working for 4 years, and now I'm working full time at a bank as a software engineer. And out of like 8 hours that I work every day, I would say 5 to 6 of those are just project management, whether it's updating things or documenting your solution or talking with stakeholders or clients. And you like 2 to 3 hours end up going to actually programming or working on that solution. Some days I don't even do any of that. So yeah, project management is a big deal. Again, Studio 2B, I kept the streak of going on high distinctions. Finally, we went towards the last year actually. So this was my last year, and I actually ended up doing 5 subjects in the last semester, 4 subjects in summer, and 5 subjects in the semester before, because I really wanted to finish early. And you can see obviously the effects of me trying to cram everything all at once. Over here, my marks were not as good as the semester before, but they were good enough for me to pass. And honestly, at that time, I just wanted to pass. I really wanted to finish. I wasn't bothered studying. I wasn't bothered doing anything. I just wanted to finish because I have already been working almost as full time, and the only thing that was stopping me from progressing in my work is uni. So I really wanted to finish uni at that time. One thing that I'll mention is the engineering capstone and the engineering research preparation. So this is basically your capstone. It's your research project that without it you will not graduate. And at this point, I had selected my topic and I got 54 in it. And then a year later, or sorry, a semester later, I managed to improve a lot more and I got 70% in it. So this is basically the breakdown of the course, what I studied and how I studied it. Now I'm just going to summarize basically my experience in uni overall and whether you think it's important and whether I think it's good for everyone to attend it or not. So let's stick by for that. Alright, so now that we're actually done with summarizing my marks and summarizing the actual content of the degree, which I'm pretty sure was super boring, I now want to just summarize uni overall and whether it was important for me, whether I feel like I would do it again or not. So the short answer to this is I would 110% do uni again. And in fact, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that the subjects are the main reason why I would do uni again. I really liked uni because of the friends that I made and the experience that I made just going to uni, speaking to people from all over the world, really. Like, we had people, international students from everywhere. And a lot of these times you would partner up with them for your uni projects and learn something new from them, not necessarily from the subject. And I think for me, that was the most important thing that I ever learned during that period of uni, really. Understanding that not everyone thinks the same way as you, and understanding that there are people out there that when you're working with them on a project, they just don't care that much and that their priorities are different, and that's not a bad thing, is a huge deal. I know so many people that enter work thinking everyone's going to be excited, everyone's going to be wanting to do the same work as them. And unfortunately, once they start, they really get let down by someone who might not care that much about that current project or even the whole job. And it's important to just be able to separate yourself from those people and not let them put you down. They're not bad people, but maybe this project is just not something that interests them. I know for a fact for myself, so many subjects, I would be partnered up with a group of people and I just wouldn't perform as much as I hoped I would. And that's because I'm not interested in the project, or I don't like it, or maybe I don't even like the people. And then sometimes the project itself will be much harder, but I'll be with a group of people that I really enjoy working with and I would perform so well. And I think uni is just giving you a preview on how that's going to be in the real world, and a preview on how the real world works is very important and really life changing. Like, I think if uni was only online and I managed to go, by the way, I did 3 years of uni out of the 5 years in home, in on campus, and 2 years were online because of COVID. And I'm just gonna say it, like, even though my marks were actually better when I was from home, I learned nothing when I was at home. I learned zero things. Like, when I was actually in uni, I would be so attentive, or much more attentive at least. And even if my marks were not as good, just listening to your lecturers and listening to your tutors, talking to a friend who's actually good at the subject, and just sharing those experiences are much better than a higher mark without any of those experiences. Overall, I think uni is definitely worth it. I would do it again, but I wouldn't stress too much if at some point I do bad. And that's because I have another card, or I had another card, and that's that I was working. If you're someone who only has uni, or someone who only has work, then focus on whatever you're doing to be really well. But if you're like me and you manage to actually start working from the beginning, I think it's alright if you don't necessarily smash uni and get high distinctions all the time, because you already have a plan B. That was my overall summary of uni. It's definitely very important. I would recommend software engineering any day. And I hope you really did enjoy this episode. I hope you learned something from it. I hope this motivated you to do software engineering, or maybe stopped you if you didn't want to. And please make sure you leave a comment, let me know what you thought, and leave a like or a dislike to this video as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope I see you in the next episode.